That is correct. You have been lied to, and so was I. Let's talk about it. So I recently was just listening to a podcast about business, and the guy that was talking has nothing to do with firewood and everything to do with firewood. It was about business. It doesn't matter if you sell firewood or if you just cut it for yourself. The whole talk was about comparing yourself to others. And he said something that really stood out to me, and I think we're all guilty of this from time to time. But there is a specific case that I want to bring up and talk about because I think it pertains to a lot of you. And the statement was, do not compare your beginning to someone else's end. What that means is you are at a different point in either your experience cutting firewood or your experience of being a business selling firewood or whatever else it is you do in life. Everyone is at a different point. Some of us have been doing this a long time and have a lot to share. Some of us have been doing it forever. Some of us do it full-time professional, and they have a lot to offer. Then there's people that are just starting out, and they also have a lot to offer because they come up with new ideas and have thoughts on things or do something with a different technique. We can all teach each other because, like I've always said, all of us is smarter than any one of us. But when you look at yourself and where you are and you get frustrated, the thing that I compare this to, it's like a new graduate from, say, high school or a tech school or college. They get out and they think, all right, the money's going to come in now. I can start spending money. I can start buying things. I can buy a new car. I can buy a house. I can go on trips and vacations. I can do all the stuff that people that have been doing it their whole lives are doing, or their parents do it. They don't realize that it doesn't happen like that for most people unless you inherited a bunch of wealth, or if you win the lottery, if you're the 3 or 4 people a year that do that. You're not going to be a person that just jumps right in and can just start throwing money out and enjoying the good life, as a lot of people like to say. So I'm going to back way up now and talk about something that I heard in the firewood industry. There was a person at a show that was talking about how much you can make per hour, almost like printing money, by running a piece of their equipment. And well, yes, it was true, but it was also not the whole truth. It was kind of a lie. And the reason I bring this up is because I have a lot of people that come to my channel asking questions because they either want to produce more wood, they want to get the right piece of equipment, or they want to buy the right piece of equipment at the right time, you know, as far as should they get a new splitter, should they get a dump trailer, should they get a new truck, should they buy a processor, should they buy this new chainsaw, whatever it is. And well, yes, this person was telling them the truth that you can make this kind of money using their product. It doesn't mean that you're going to, and it doesn't mean that he's going to be able to, or he's going to be able to, or she's going to be able to. It can be done if you're in the right situation, at the right place, at the right time, at the right development in your firewood career, business career. And there's a lot of people that think, oh, I go out and I spend all this money and it'll just make me more money. You got to spend money to make money. That's BS. It can work that way, but most people fail at that. Most people, when they go spend a whole bunch of money, you know who wins? The bank. Because they're borrowing money they don't have, and the bank is making interest on the money that you're earning, and then you pay them, and then nothing goes into your pocket. You're out of the loop. Which is why it took me as long as it did to get this new truck. I drove my Toyota Tundra for 10 years, a little over 10 years. I had 273,000 miles on it. It did everything I wanted it to do, but it got to the point where I needed to upgrade. I needed to get something that could do more, would be something I could depend on because I put so much hard work into it that I was getting kind of iffy with it. And if I would have lost the ability to use it to do my deliveries, to make firewood, I would have had to scramble to get something. So I spent a year researching, trying to find out what to get that was going to be best for me. And I had the money to do it. Now, for those of you that know, the truck, it's a 2025 Chevy Custom, not the bottom of the line, but not far from it. It's just a basic truck. It does what I need it to do. It was $57,000. And I did take the financing because I was able to keep my money that I saved for the truck in my accounts and in my pocket where it belongs. And I'm going to probably pay this off within a year, but I'm going to use my income from my firewood money to pay it off. But I did the financing because I haven't borrowed money in 20, 30 years. I don't know, a long time. I built my business, my building for my business over 20 years ago. It was 23 years ago. That's the last time I borrowed money. My house I bought and paid for, I don't know, 15 years ago, was paid for. I bought it 30 years ago, but it's been paid for like 15 years. So I haven't borrowed money in a long, long time. My business credit, which is what paid for this, was quite high. It's in the 800s because we pay our bills and we don't buy stuff we don't need, can't use. And again, that brings us back to what this person was saying about how much you can make per hour using their equipment. And yes, you can make that kind of money if, number one, you've got an established business and you've got customers that are willing to buy it now. A lot of people in business think, I should say, a lot of people that want to go into business think that they look at Joe Schmo down the street that's got people coming and going all the time, and he sees people handing him money and he knows the volume they're doing, whatever business they're in. And in his mind, he's calculating, well, but he's got 10 people a day coming in there and I know they're giving him $100, $200 each person. That's a couple $1,000s a day, and he does that 7 days a week. And you add it up in your head, you're thinking in a year, he's making hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you think, I'm gonna do the same thing he's doing. But you don't realize you are not where he's at. You're not. You're not the same person. You're not the same situation. You have a different skill set more than likely. You may have some skills that are better. You're probably gonna have some skills that are way worse. But they have a particular skill set that makes them as successful as they are. The number one thing that a lot of people never calculate into all this is time on job. They think, oh, he's doing it, I'm gonna do it. It doesn't work that way. It took me about 15 years to get my firewood business built up to where it is. It didn't just happen. It was an uphill fight the whole way. And a lot of people look at us and think, well, I want to be like that. I want that kind of business. It ain't gonna happen overnight. It takes time to build up customers. It was a lot of work went into it. You don't just step into it running. Unless you buy an existing business, then you can step into it, and whether you buy it out in whole, or if you buy it out over a long period of time and pay it off, that's different. And that's a smart move if you've got that available to you. But back again to this equipment person. They were saying that, oh yeah, you can make $500 an hour running their machine. And well, yeah, what do they mean by make? Is that how much material you can accumulate in that much time? Yeah, probably. But they're not factoring in this piece of equipment. It's not just that piece of equipment. It's the piece of equipment and the other equipment to help run it. So you're talking piece of equipment and a bunch of other things that go into making that piece of equipment run. Then you've got your manpower, whether it's you, a worker, a couple workers, paying those people. And then you come into all your operating expenses. You have to look at where you are. What are you paying for your rent or your lease or whatever it is? What kind of deal you got worked out? You got to look at your operating expenses as far as your daily materials, your fuel, your repairs, maintenance, all the stuff that goes into running that. Then you got to look at your raw materials, which is another thing they never talk about. Raw materials like logs. They don't just fall here. You got to buy them. On average, I'm spending $1,300 to $1,600 per load. And I might buy 10, 12, 15 in a year, however many I need, depending on what I get for other wood on the side. They're not figuring that into it. Then you got your delivery. You're going to have trucks and trailers, whatever it is, and you got your time to deliver it. It's not printing money. So don't be fooled by, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. It's not that easy. It's hard, hard work. Everything, like my brother Ken and I was talking about, no matter how you look at it, firewood is work. It doesn't matter how you do it, it's work. Even if you're using machinery, it's still work. It's hard work, but it's good, honest work, and I enjoy it tremendously. So do not be fooled. It's not going to be easy. Accept that and then just get to work. And don't give up the first time you hit a hurdle. You've got to either go over that hurdle, around the hurdle, through the hurdle. You just keep going. You're going to have hard times. You're going to have difficult days where it's not working well. You're going to have challenges. You're going to have stuff come up that you didn't see because you cannot plan for everybody else's actions. Stuff's going to happen. You just work through it and you make it work. So those two things that I just heard, the printing money thing from the firewood industry with their equipment, and the guy that said, do not compare yourself to someone else's end when you're just beginning. You've got to look at it from a lot of different angles and a lot of different perspectives to get a true feel for where you're at. Another thing that a lot of people do not consider is their market. This is huge, huge. The example I'm going to use is my YouTube channel. The firewood industry is a very small market. Very small number of people are firewood people. They call it the universe of possible users or possible customers. And the firewood group is a small group of people. There might be a couple 100,000 people that are involved in firewood, either production, cutting, using, and selling. And then there's probably going to be 1 million people, maybe 2, that burn it for themselves, but yet want good equipment and are willing to look at people that are doing it on a bigger scale and learn from them. But the usable universe of people available is pretty small, actually, compared to trucks. There's a much bigger market for trucks, much bigger market for vehicles in general, much bigger market for food, because everybody eats. So when you look at your marketable availability of your customers, you have to look at in a radius of where you are, whether that's 5 miles, 10 miles, 20 miles, 50 miles. How many people do you have in your area? And I have talked to a lot of people in the firewood industry that are on extreme ends of the scale. I know people that are in the middle of nowhere that sell firewood, but they definitely have a smaller amount of people to sell to, much smaller market. They're going to get a smaller amount of dollars per unit of wood, cord, whatever you want to call it, face cord, third of cord, rank a row, whatever you want to call it. They're going to get less money because there's few people. And when there's few people, a lot of times there's lots of trees. At least that is how it works in northern Wisconsin, northern Minnesota, northern Michigan. A lot of places that have lots of trees, lots of forests, there's usually not a lot of people. The opposite of people that live where there's millions of people, there's usually few trees, which means they're going to have a higher price. And those extremes, just for instance, I know people that have a hard time selling a third of a cord or a face cord for $50. And I know of people that are in big cities that can get $200 to $250 for a face cord all day, every day. And they can't get enough of it because they have a market. So you cannot compare yourself to everyone. You got to look at where you fit and be reasonable with what you can do, unless you can figure out a way to get your product to the people. And I've mentioned this before in a video. If you are looking at the number one thing you want to sell firewood, it's not trees. I had a guy on the channel said, the number one thing I would look for is lots of land with lots of trees, because you need trees to sell firewood. So that's the most important thing you can have. That's not right. I can buy logs, but I can't buy customers. You need customers. Thought I'd ramble on about this. I thought I'd talk about it because I think it's something that pertains to a lot of you. Whether you're at the beginning stages of cutting firewood for yourself, or if you do it professionally full-time to sell firewood, you're somewhere in there. Look at it from your perspective compared with other people and where they were when you were developing, when you were starting to cut firewood or starting to sell wood, or what your knowledge is as far as firewood. Look at people that are ahead of you, find out what they did to get there, and then learn those steps, and then implement those steps. But don't leapfrog to the end guy and say, oh, he's got $2 million worth of equipment. I want to be him. I'm going to go borrow some money and we're going to be in business. It doesn't work good that way. I'm not saying you can't. It can. If you've got everything else taken care of, you've got an existing market, you've got your supply where you can get raw materials, you've got workforce, you've got the money for equipment. You're not going to be paying the bank all the money instead of it paying for you and for building your business. Those are just my thoughts. That's all I got for today, folks. I'll see you tomorrow morning, 5:30 a.m. I'm going to be here waiting for you right here. Good night, Irene.